Hi, everybody, and welcome to PTP TV, our debut interview. And I thought, who better to start things off with than the founder and the head coach of the Primetime Players, Chris Thomas. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Chris. How about yourself?
Hanging in there, hanging in there. I wanted to talk. We haven't really talked about the history of the Primetime Players before, so I was kind of curious about it myself, and I figured it'd be a good way to start off this little venture that we're going to do together. So take us back. I believe Primetime Players were started in 1991. Is that correct?
Yeah, man, that's a long, long time ago. You want me to run through it real quick for you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, basically what had happened is I met my wife. She lives in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and I was in Spartanburg. And when I came up here, there was nothing to do but go to the gym and play pickup. And I ended up signing up for a local YMCA team. And I mean, it was probably the worst basketball team I'd ever seen in my life. We went like 0 and 15, and then I was like, I can get my own team together and start doing it. And so basically, it just started from there. I got a YMCA team the following year, which was 1991, was the first year I put my own team together, and we kind of did that for 3 or 4 years, and then I kind of started doing the park and rec, and we started playing more games. And I think it was in 1994 I found about some of the leagues in Charlotte, so we started
Hmm.
traveling up there, and I started getting a couple of the better players off of a couple of other teams and kind of merged together to create, a team that I thought could go up there and compete. And I guess by 1998 we were already setting up playing college exhibition games and stuff like that, and we were playing almost 100 games a year by 98, I believe it was. We started playing 100 games a year. And
Anybody of note in those early seasons? People that you kind of look back on, or maybe still keep in touch with today?
yeah, well, this past year, what we did for our 30, this was my 30th year of minor of basketball total. We this on our first year, this past year before the pandemic, at our home opener, we had a Hall of Fame where we had guys come back from the guys over the last 30 years. And we had a couple guys that played on the first team and a couple that played in the 90s and a couple in the early 2000s that came back. And we inducted five guys into the Hall of Fame along with Will Massey, who was the first one that we put in 2 years ago. The guy that followed us when we did the TBT run. We were trying to raise awareness for his heart transplant and stuff. He was the first member to go into the Hall of Fame back in 2017.
Right, right. And for basketball fans who might not know the history of the game, one of the appealing things for me about the Primetime Players, you guys are kind of like a throwback to the early days of basketball when it was more barnstorming, like the original Celtics, who were based out of New York, believe it or not. And I think my hometown, the Cleveland Rosenblums, back in this is like the 20s when these teams would just travel the country and take on all comers. A more modern example who started in the 20s as well is the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yeah.
And you guys are you kind of have that cadence, or you have that throwback to you. You take on all comers and as many games as possible, right?
Yeah, well, the way, I mean, really though, back in those early days I mean, now we've come a long way now, but like in the late '90s and the early 2000s, back then they didn't have all those rules, so we could get Division III, JUCOs, Division twos. We could get games against anybody. I mean, one year we had 18 games against Division two and three and JUCOs. I think in '99 we ended up having 18 game schedule, just where on the weekends we were traveling to go to colleges. And I mean, and it was good. All my guys had played local college ball, and then we're traveling to some of their colleges where they'd played before, and having their fans and coaches see them come back. And I mean, and I really enjoyed that part of it.
How'd you do against those schools?
We only lost one time in any of the games we went back to
Wow,
play the
really?
schools. Yeah, and that was kind of some home cooking versus Belmont Abbey. It was a little bit some home cooking out there.
um, Take us through just kind of your favorite memories of the Primetime Players up until today, of course.
Well, probably the biggest one would be when we went to the TBT in 2015 when we made it to DePaul. I grew up as a DePaul fan as a child, and so I was a big Ray Meyer fan. And we went to Atlanta, and nobody knew who we were when we got down there, and
Right.
we knocked off a couple really good teams, and we got to go play in Chicago, stayed in Chicago. And and for us just to be a local started off as a local rec team, then won a couple minor league championships. The going to Chicago to be on ESPN playing for $1 million was, really big for me and for the guys.
Yeah,
So
right.
nothing can really compare to that.
Right, yeah. It's an interesting story, Chris, just what you've been able to create here. And now we're seeing, well, we've always seen the talent through at least as long as I've been covering you guys, but like Christian Keeling was involved. You have other players stepping up, former NBA guys, former guys who spent 20 plus years in Europe and playing overseas. And Sean Barnett, of course, is still doing that, as are others. It's kind of an amazing thing that exists, and what I think people don't really realize about this level of basketball, especially in the Carolinas, is just how good it is.
I mean, it is great. And the biggest thing is, though, is Chris is like, I mean, growing up, I never thought that I would be, a basketball coach. I mean, when I was going to coach, I was going to be a football coach or, a high school wrestling coach. But when I got up here, I always played basketball, and then that's all I was around. So I started doing it. And I mean, this basketball is, I've met so many great guys, through the basketball part. I mean, Barnett, I mean, I knew him since he was a baby. I was friends with
Yeah.
his dad and saw him at the Y. And then we met Christian Keeling, this spring. And when I met him, he was a great kid. And, he came and went with us to the TBT, and he earned his spot to get out there in Mercy. When he went out there, I mean, he took full advantage of his opportunity to be out there. Now he's in the UK, and he's doing a great job. And I mean, he's just a great kid, and he deserves every single bit of it.
Yeah, and we'll talk to some of those guys here on PTP TV throughout the season. And wanted to mention, too, before we let you go, Chris, let's talk a little bit about the ECBL season coming up here. I think March 2nd is your first game against Carolina.
It's March the 6th. We play
March 6th,
Columbia.
yeah.
Yep.
All right.
She's changed her name now, though. It's the Carolina Crusaders instead of the Columbia Crusaders. And we play her on Saturday. Then we travel to Greenville to take on the Red Hawks on that Sunday.
What are you looking for this year? It's a good league, I know, but you've been able to win it relatively easy just about every year.
Yeah, but it's definitely not like that anymore. I mean, we've got a really tough team down in Atlanta. Of course, the Charlotte team's improved. Gastonia's improved this year. The Thunder are always going to be tough. And I mean, I'm not even talking about the teams in the north. And we have the Garden City's improved. We got a brand new Myrtle Beach team they've been signing so many guys. It seems like that, they got a 20-man roster. And so, the biggest thing is for us, we're a little bit younger, this year, but, we do still have, Chris Moore, is still running the point guard for us. So,
Yeah.
He's going to help out the younger guys on the team, and then signing Trevor Booker, or him agreeing to play with us. I mean, that was big for us this year too.
Yeah, he's I think 8 years in the NBA, Trevor Booker, and like I was telling people, he's not a guy who averaged, 4 minutes a game and something like that in the NBA. He was a player.
Man, he is a total monster. I mean, he by chance somebody that I'm friends with that told him we were having an open run, and he me and said, did I have a spot for him to come down? And he came down in September, and he's been coming every single week, 2 or 3 times a week. And I've been joking with him about, not joking with him, I was serious, but I think he didn't know that I was really serious about it, because I told him if you want to, he said that he would be interested in playing. I said, well, if you play, I said, I'll change the logo. And so I took our logo and took the silhouette and put his headband face on the silhouette. And we kind of went back and forth with that for about a week. And then 2 weeks ago, we were working out. And then I just told him, I said, Trevor, I said, we would love to have you play. And he said, well, Chris, he said, I want to continue to compete. He just doesn't want to have the grind of the NBA season and doing all that. And when, his family's here, he lives here, and playing 1 game a week and being able to have his family there. And I mean, he pushes our guys. I mean, he's another level guy. So having him, makes our guys, accountable and want to play even, they won't be able to be all lackadaisical and this and that, because they got a guy that's been there, to probably get on them and make sure they do things the right way.
Well, we'll have all the home games on demand here on PTP TV, so be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And Chris, we'll let you go. Thanks for giving us some insight, a little history, a little background into the Primetime Players, and I'm sure we'll be chatting a lot this year.
All right, Chris, I appreciate you, buddy.
All right, take care.